Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am Disco Kitty the Crappy Crafter. Today we're going to play with a little bit of silicone and then we'll play with a little bit of resin because I got this handy dandy mold maker. It's for making dice molds, but it will also work for anything that will fit inside of there. Anything that's the size of a die, and there are a lot of things out there, but specifically this is meant for dice. I bought it from a dude on Reddit, of all places. He has an Etsy shop. I will, of course, link that down below. And, well, let's try it. Let's get right into it, right? So it comes apart, and it opens up, and then it even has pre-made keys, so you don't have to make your own keys. I'm super duper excited to try it. It's a lot bigger than I was expecting it to be, but that's okay. So let's get right into it. Okay, so let's see what it looks like. It is lots and lots of pieces. I think there's 5 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 pieces. It splits in half. There's a base. The base makes a key, which is very cool, but we'll talk about that more later. There's a the 2 sides, and then the nut that goes over the whole thing to hold it together. So of course the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean my master, and then I'm going to put packing tape on this because I don't have a Cricut, so I don't have Cricut tape, so I have to use what I got, and this is what I got, and it works well enough. Trim the tape. See, now I'm gonna warn you now that I read the instructions. There were instructions, written instructions. It came with them, but there was also a QR code for a video I did not watch until much later, much later. Like the day that I'm voicing this over, which happened to be last Wednesday, if this goes up on time. All right. One of the things that he said was to put some Vaseline in between. So I happen to have some off-brand petroleum jelly. When I watched the video, he used, what did he use? I swear Aquaphor? Is that what he used? It wasn't this, though. It wasn't. Is Aquaphor petroleum jelly? I have no idea, honestly, but it certainly seemed to work a lot better than whatever I used. So now that we've got it in there and we've got it centered, we can see that it doesn't quite close right, and that's gonna cause some issues later, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, you can even see light in between the 2 pieces. You could see the base, the white of the base in between. Okay, so we're making up silicone rubber, and this is a 2-part silicone rubber from Let's Resin. It's, I don't know what the shore hardness is because they don't say. I'm sure they do somewhere, but I couldn't find it. But it is a very thin resin, silicone when mixing. Very thin. Very thin, and I like it because it picks up a lot of details, but yeah, missing footage is I cooked it and then I took it out and it worked perfectly, except for the fact that it had leaked all over and I needed to use a pipe wrench in order to get the red nut off of the rest of it. Now here I'm putting Vaseline on the mold, all around the face of the mold, all around the edges of the mold, so that the second layer of silicone does not stick to it. I don't usually use Vaseline, but today we're going to, just for funsies. And I also had to clean off the face of the die because I got, Vaseline on it, but that's neither here nor there, although it could be because I did clean it with alcohol, so it's possible I left a little alcohol on the face of the die, like in the number 1. I don't know. So we're mixing up our second batch of silicone. I feel like I'm misnarrating this really badly today, and I'm not sure why, but that's okay. Remember, stir, stir, stir. I'm not saying any of my usual things. So I did use a pipette to get into the keys because I didn't want there to be any gaps in the keys, any bubbles in the keys. And the pipette works really, really well. Tapping out any bubbles, pouring the rest right on top, and then we're gonna cook this as well because we cooked the first one, so we might as well cook the second one as well. And it works all right. It cured in 3 hours or less. I'm not sure how quickly it cured because, like I said, the curing machine is meant for resin, but you know, it worked. Yeah, gotta get that open. It's in there good, which is good. But I didn't have any problems taking it apart. The only thing you missed there was me cleaning off all the Vaseline. I you know, clean the Vaseline off of the mold housing so that I wouldn't be all gross. All right, now time to break it open. Opens real nice. It does open better than talc powder, it's true, but I do prefer my talc powder. And I actually got some real talc powder as opposed to, you know, using baby powder, which is not talc powder anymore because, you know, it's radioactive and we don't want that. And I was, oh, look at that face. Look at the face. Something happened to the face. And I'm thinking it's the Vaseline. I put it in something hot. It got up to like, I don't know how hot, 160 degrees probably. And I feel that the Vaseline just melted. Oh, see this? See what I'm doing there? Do you see what I'm doing there? That's not a good thing. Now there's water in there that I'm gonna forget to clean out. And this first mold is gonna be real bad. Real bad. But this is completely on me, has absolutely nothing to do with the mold housing or with the mold that it created. This particular problem is all on me. All on me. Although technically I think I introduced the water when I measured the cavity of the mold, you know, with some water. And here I'm trying to make sure I don't have any bubbles in the numbers because I'm not going to use a pressure pot for this first one. And here I'm trying to get rid of those little bubbles. You can't see them, but they just look like there's just a dozen little bubbles I could not get rid of. I was just hoping that they would eventually go away, but they don't because they're not air, they're water, and they boiled. So, and I think I put the top on wrong, but it's hard to say. So, it has been cooked. It is time to take it apart and see what, oh, you can't see it, but that is just so lacy with bubbles. So many bubbles. All on me. That's on me. It has nothing to do with the mold or the mold housing. That was just me being dumb. Rawr. Okay. Next, oh no, we get to compare the master to the bubblies. The bubblies. I hadn't realized at this point what had happened. I thought maybe I got alcohol in there, but no, it was water from measuring the cavity. Anyways, this is round 2 of casting. Same mold, but a little issue with the one. Yeah, it is not smooth. It's not going to come out smooth. It will never be smooth. It is trash. Trash. So I will try to make a second cap, which is probably the dumbest thing I could have done because it just wasted resin and time and didn't work. But we're going to do it anyways. Getting the dye back in the mold, super hard, which is part of the reason why it doesn't work. Not that it matters because because I didn't use a pressure pot and because I didn't allow it to sit to outgas, there are a lot of little bubbles in the mold itself. So there will be a lot of little, you know, bumps. They won't be divots, they'll be bumps because the bubbles are in the mold, not in the dye. But that cap is still not gonna work. So this one I also used petroleum jelly. I'm cleaning that off now. And it did the same thing. It just, as far as I could tell, it just leaked and it made gross. Oh yeah, and there was a big bubble in that one. In that lid. Big bubble in that lid. Huge bubble in that lid. So this is not the mold that has all the little bubbles, is it? No, I don't know. I don't remember. No, it will be. I'll figure that out later. Yes. So here we're just going to start from scratch and make a brand new base. Because obviously the other one was just not going to work. I didn't know that quite yet, how badly it wasn't going to work. So this is how I get the nut off. Go the other way. There you go. So that's how I get the nut off. I don't think using petroleum jelly on that would have helped get it off. So with this one, I used the pressure pot. I did not cook it, so it took the full curing time, which I thought was 8 hours, but I'm not entirely sure. It sat overnight anyway, so... all that wasted resin. It leaked like, I don't know, at least 1/8 of an inch. And you can see where, yeah, just so much. Oh well. Gotta get the tape off. The tape did not want to come off this time. It came off really easy the first time. It did not want to come off this time. Now I'm going to fight with it. Now, I don't know if I've mentioned, I had not watched the video of this yet. I'm pretty sure I said that. But since I started, like editing it, and now I'm doing the voiceover, I have actually watched the video, and I that the creator of this made, and it made a little more sense. I don't know if I did too terribly many things wrong, but the one thing I did do is I didn't cut a key in the base. I guess I was supposed to cut a key because later I will complain about how it shouldn't have 4 of its own keys already. It should only have 3 unequally distant from each other, so you can just plop it on without having to look at it. But that's just me being lazy, I guess. But look at that. You can see it's just, I put lots of Vaseline in it, but it's just not gonna help. There's just such a gap there, huge gap there. And that could be me. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe the silicone base is holding it open and not allowing it. Maybe I got something stuck in there. I don't know. But here we go, trying to get it open. And this time the silicone leaked all the way around down to the bottom. It coated the entire thing. I had to cut it in order to be able to even get into it, which is not bad. My cuts weren't perfect, but they're good enough. And here you can see the talc powder works just fine at getting everything off. But I saw here that it was not cured around the face. And that's always my biggest problem. I've made dozens of dice molds, and half of them the cap won't cure, and I don't know why. People have said it's the alcohol, so we'll figure it out some other time. But we're going to try it just using some nice clear resin. Don't forget to put some in the cap. Make sure there are no bubbles. And we're gonna use the pressure pot on this. We are. But here's where I'm like, wait, oh no, because the first mold had like a bubble in it that made a kind of key, but this one didn't. So it was a little harder for me to figure it out. but that's because I should have cut my own key. And here is the moment of truth. Oh, and I should have, in the cap, around the outside edge, there's like a wall, and look at how good that looks. And I should have cut a little hole in that to allow excess resin out, because it gave me a raised face, which is okay, because it's just a trial anyways. But not only did it have a raised face, but it just didn't work anyways, again. Well, I think we can consider that a fail on my part. I'm sure third time would be the charm, but you know what? It wasn't. I did make it 3 times. So here's my master die. Pretty, pretty, pretty. Here is the first one that I cast. I made 2 molds. I made 3 dice. The first die that I cast, I think I ended up with alcohol in there. So it got really, really weird. Really, really weird. And then the second one that I cast, let's see which one, this one. The second one that I cast, there were little bubbles in the mold. I don't know if you can see that. Here, let me put the light in front. Stay. All right, let's see if you can see. Can you see the bubbles that were in the mold? That created little bloops. See? I don't know if you can see that. I hope you can see that. Anyways, so the other problem that mold had was the when I made the mold, I made the bottom, and then I slathered it with petroleum jelly, like I was told to in the instructions, and then I made the cap. But when I did it, when the master was still in there, I think some of the petroleum jelly melted and spread over the face of the die, because, let's see, where'd it go? Because this is what we got for our one. This doesn't have the shine. See, it's all nice and shiny. It is not shiny. Not shiny at all. And I think that's because there was Vaseline on the face of the die when I made the mold. When I made the second mold, I made the base, and then I slathered it in talcum powder, talc. That's what I use. And it came right off. It worked really well. Unfortunately, a whole bunch of the silicone coated the sides. It came all the way down to the bottom. I was able to tear that off to make it flat again, but it leaked all the way down, all the sides, on the bottom. It leaked out the edges. The tolerances to this thing could be a little bit better, because if you look. Can you see that? It's not actually being held together very well. Let's see. So the last die, nope, that's my master. The last die that I molded came out really, really well, because I actually put it in a pressure pot. So there aren't any bubbles anywhere on the outside of the die, which means there's no bubbles inside the mold, which is good. So it's all nice and smooth. That final face, just, it's better. It's better than the first one. But so what I figured happened with this one is I got talc powder on the face. So I used a little bit of alcohol to try to clean it off, and then I didn't allow the alcohol long enough to dry, although it should have. I have been told in the past that alcohol will stop silicone from curing, and if that's true, then that's how I messed that up. But still, that's all on me. That has nothing to do with the mold housing. But, so, here are my thoughts on what needs to be different. Number 1, there shouldn't be 4 of these equally spaced around the edge. Once you put resin on here, And in here, especially once you put resin in here, you're not going to be able to see which way that's facing. And this, it doesn't matter. You can put it on. It's not going to fit perfect, but you can put it on in any direction. See, now that's the way it's supposed to be, but it would have fit in any other position. It's a great idea, but it needs a little tweaking. So only 3 of these would be best. 2 here, 1 here, that way they're not equal distance from each other, and you can easily go plop. You don't have to go, oh, is it facing this way? Is it facing that way? I can't tell which way it's facing. Unless you happen to line up the mold lines perfectly. Well, it doesn't have to be perfectly, but unless you mold or line up the original mold lines with the bottom, you're not going to be able to line up the mold lines with the top and the bottom because they're going to make different mold lines because they're done at different times. So maybe only 3 of these would work. Like I said, 2 on one side, 1 on the other, makes it unequal distances, makes it really easy to go, hey, plop, there you go. Or you could put some kind of a key along one of the edges, along the edge here. You could put like a cutout, or I could cut it out. I suppose I could just do that myself. Either way. It is what it is. It works. The mold housing technically works. It technically works. It just needs to be a little tighter on its tolerances, or we need to figure out how to not allow the silicone, because I use a very runny silicone, obviously, to not allow it to leak out the seams, get into the stuff, leak out, and just... So, but I can't use that. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to make another one. It's just stressing me out, so I might give it a month or 2. I'll come back to it later. Maybe I'll try it a couple times off camera. It's an awful waste of silicone, though. So much silicone. So what I usually use... Where are they? What I usually use to make my molds is just a 4-ounce Dixie cup. And then I'll put the dye in the bottom. I don't know if you can see it in there, it's clear. I'll put the dye in the bottom, and then I'll pour the silicone up to here, and then I'll take the cup off, and I'll put a piece of tape on to make the cap, right? But it's so much bigger on the inside of this thing. So much bigger, which is nice if you want to make a bigger something to put in there, but it is such a waste of silicone. So much silicone wasted. Let's see. Here's the difference. I don't have any of my dice molds here, but here's one of my pendulum molds, and here is this thing. Now my dice molds would be about this much taller, so it'll probably be about the same height, but it's way smaller. A lot less silicone used. So if that's an issue for you, keep that in mind. Otherwise, I mean, it's a great idea. It is. It just needs a little tweaking, and I need some more practice just doing it in general, I guess. But I guess that's it for this week. So until next week, stay safe.